Well, locals are pissed they ran out of food. A driver raced with a concussion, but it was a great race. Let's chat. That's it. That's my intro. Hey, I'm Amanda. You're watching Swell Entertainment, and today we are talking about the Formula One Las Vegas Grand Prix that I went to this past weekend. Normally, I would still be recording this while in Vegas, but my exhaustion decided to mollywop me in the face. I had the worst exhaustion headache I think I've ever had in my life, and it physically attacked my body to the point I thought I had the flu. So I was vaguely catatonic for my remaining day in Vegas. And then when I came home, and then the following day as well. So now we're filming this on Wednesday. But yes, this is the second time the Las Vegas Grand Prix has taken place with this circuit and this configuration. Once again, there's a lot of people that aren't happy. Most of them are the employees and locals that live in Vegas, and that is something that I'm going to talk about because that is my job to discuss that element as well. But I'm also going to, of course, talk about the fan experience of attending the Las Vegas Grand Prix and everything that I experienced. Someone's going to be like, why are you bringing that up? That's not important. But it is important, especially when it comes to discussing some of the complaints that locals have, because they are in fact impacted by this, and we are being told that they are directly benefiting from the race. And so to ignore those complaints because, oh, these people are benefiting, I don't think is fair, and it's something that I think we should discuss. There was no opening ceremony night. So last year it was Wednesday night. They did their opening ceremony night. I got to go as a guest of TikTok and Aston Martin, thanks to Tony Cohen Brown, another creator in the space who put me forward for it. And I got to go and be in the Paddock Club and watch it from there and all of that. But that was a big hullabaloo. They introduced all the drivers that way, and that didn't happen this year. They instead moved all of that, in a sense, to the introductions for the drivers before the drivers parade, before the race itself on race day. And they did like a smaller version of that opening ceremony there, which I do think worked better, and that is more in line with what a lot of other races do, especially a lot of the US circuits. Last year, for those of you who don't know, Thursday and Friday, my tickets were comped via my dad's slot host because my dad likes to gamble. Our practice and qualifying tickets comped last year. Our race day tickets fell through, and so I ended up buying a last-minute ticket last year for myself, which ended up being about $1,200 day of, like 2 hours before the race. This year, we did get our race day tickets comped via Caesars Rewards, again through the slot host. Shout out Jen. But Thursday and Friday, I ended up doing what I normally do, which is buying tickets. And so that way, Thursday, I actually went with my dad. We both had tickets to Champions Club. And then Friday, I was just in Champions Club, and my dad was in the Koval Zone Suite. The reason I decided to do Champions Club that day is because I have never seen single-day hospitality tickets like this. Amanda here. Yes, I'm on a boat, still working, but I want to make the correction that I have since been seeing a couple of single-day paddock tickets for other races, okay? But it has been like paddock club type of tickets. I have not been seeing single-day Champions Club tickets, so I want to make that distinction. For those who don't know, when I went to the Japanese Grand Prix earlier this year, I had Champions Club as well. That was just a flat weekend Champions Club fee. That was about $4,000 for the Japanese Grand Prix. If you want to go watch that video, you can go watch that video. I had a blast. But then when I saw that Champions Club was doing single day tickets, I was like, okay, that can't be normal, right? And I took that as another means that they were having trouble selling tickets, including to hospitality. Oh, I should also note there was even a ticket section where they decided to make one grandstand the Lewis Hamilton grandstand and gave it a 44% discount, which was, I believe the seats were originally like $1,000 for the weekend, and that brought it down to $600, and they still had tickets available for a very long time. I don't know if they ended up selling out. My assumption would be yes, but the reason a lot of people didn't buy tickets early on, and there was a lot of last minute tickets, and you saw probably a lot of motorsport creators and creators in general going last minute, is because they were just waiting until the tickets kept dropping, because it did look like they were going to keep dropping. And so that was the case for a lot of people. And they were like, wait, I can actually afford it now. Great. But also what I thought was interesting is that they ended up getting rid of quite a few grandstands. I talked to a lot of people this weekend who had regular grandstand tickets and actually were upgraded to various other seats within F1 experiences like Champions Club. So, or just even better seats in the grandstands, because they were getting rid of grandstands that they had bought tickets to and they had to move them around. And so the way to to not make people mad when they're moving is to put them in a higher space. But they ended up getting rid of a lot of grandstands, whether because they weren't selling or because they were like, okay, we need to cut these. But a lot of grandstands that were there last year were not there this year. What I thought was interesting as well is that my grandstand from last year, right at the end of the hairpin at the exit of the pit lane, okay, that was turned into a hospitality zone. One grandstand was turned into a bunch of suites, and I saw Sirius XM and a couple other, I think there was a T-Mobile suite in there as well. I think there was a couple other suites on that side as well. That was a grandstand last year. And then where Champions Club was, and a couple other turn 3 clubs were, including suites, like where Dermalogical was, quite a few creators were there. That was all in a section that was considered the Red Bull fan zone last year. Wait, is this different? Because that was grandstands last time. Did they change this? These were grandstands. This is where I sat last year. Was this section right here. This is a building now. This is, wow. First day, no problem. We did get a really late paddock time. The good thing about having individual tickets, usually with Champions Club, you get like one paddock tour and like another tour. Because I went 2 days with individual tickets, I actually ended up getting 2 paddock tours. Our first day, our paddock tour was at 12:25 a.m. So our tour is about 25 minutes late right now, so it's close to 1. The problem is that gates close at 2, so I really hope they don't cut our tour short because it's late. Which already I was really bummed about, because I talked about this in Japan, that your time is randomly selected, but it also really determines how much you're going to get to see. At that point, drivers, team personnel, pretty much everyone is like wrapping up and closing everything down. So already there wasn't going to be anything happening, not really. But then our tour guide was 25 minutes late. So my dad, I can already tell he's exhausted. This man's going to be 60, okay? He's tired. You know, like when someone just has tears like welling in their eyes because they're that tired? That's what my dad looked like. And then I'm like, oh God, this man is going to be late. And then we start walking to the paddock. We go to the gate. We start swiping in. And security guards goes, what are you guys doing? It's closed. There's no more tours. We did still do our tour, but like that, I was like, oh my God, my dad's going to kill someone. Oh God, I'm going to be banned for life. He didn't. He was fine. He ended up enjoying himself. He did find it interesting. This was not something we got to experience last year when he came with me to the paddock club. So that was fun for him to experience. But as someone who has previously had that experience already, I'm like, this is shorter and there's nothing really happening. But overall, no issues with the session. Got to explain a lot more stuff to my dad. My dad got to watch a full practice 1 and practice 2. He didn't get to experience the last time because he dipped after the first cancellation, obviously. And then the next night I go in, and the way that the Champions Club works is you go and get your credentials, same with Paddock Club, same with various other seats, and you go and get your lanyard and you wear your lanyard the whole time, okay? However, you then still have a digital ticket the way that you would to scan in. And so I get in through the East Harmon zone. I walk over to my spot for the hospitality. I go and get my wristband because you have to get a specialty wristband to scan in everywhere. And I realized that the wristband they gave me is not the same one as last year. It's for level 2 or something like that. Level 2 club, which is a shared zone. And I just thought they gave me the wrong wristband. I go up to Champions Club. I'm like, hey, I'm sorry. Like, I think they gave me the wrong wristband. I scan my credentials. No problem. They're like, oh yeah, we need you to get the other one because this one won't let you into the Champions Club. So I go to get the right wristband. And then that's when we determine, after a 20-minute back and forth, it's not that they gave me the wrong wristband. It's that I had been sent the wrong ticket. Level 2 shared club, that's the one that they had sent me. However, my purchase, my receipt, everything showed Champions Club. My credentials said Champions Club. So they're like, yeah, you have to call F1 Experiences. Cue a 40-minute conversation later for them to finally get me sent the proper ticket that lets me in. And again, they're like, but you have a ticket, you have a wristband. I'm like, yes, I do. Not for what I paid for. Now, I don't know what level 2 shared club would cost, but when I did go in there later, because again, they gave me the wristband, they told me to hold on to it. I did go up in there later because I'm nosy. It was overwhelmingly less than what I got in Champions Club. Was there free food? Yes. Was there still drinks? Yes. Was there the extra little fun things that come with the Champions Club? No. There was not a sim racing setup. There was not speakers from what I could see. There was not the auction and art that they had in there. Was the view better? Yes, because for some reason, Champions Club being on level 1, I don't know why they decided to do it that way, but they should have put it higher up. I am definitely going to do a Girly Pop Go video just about Champions Club because now I have been a part of 2 Champions Clubs and I know a third one, especially the one in Austin. I saw where that was. I was inside of it. I saw the view. I saw the layout. I saw it all. And so I'm going to do a video because I definitely think that it's something that has value to it, but it definitely depends on what you want out of the experience. I like having a good view of the track and having a good view of these cars. Champions Club does not give you that. You're close to these cars. It was nice to have a place warm to go to during the cold. But because of where the Champions Club is, because of how low it is, you are so close to the barrier and the racing line is so close to the barrier, you see the tops of the cars typically. And that's not exactly a good experience for a race fan. Should have been higher up. I also feel like they needed way more screens in this section as well. But again, they're optimizing for who's inside and not who's outside being close to these cars. This I feel like was an overcorrection because they were like, okay, we're not overselling these grandstands. Let's up the hospitality zones. The thing is that I was actually told by a team personnel last year that a lot of teams' hospitality zones were at only like 60 to 70% capacity for the most part, which they normally don't experience that. And so I feel like upping the hospitality zones, like the amount of hospitality zones available, I don't know if that was the right move either. Again, this feels like an overcorrection. As far as the Champions Club goes, did I enjoy being in there? Did I enjoy hearing Crofty and Will Buxton talk? Absolutely. They brought the World Championship trophy in. I got to go get a little photo with it. Love that, as always. Did I enjoy, again, having somewhere warm to go to? Yes. Would I choose this one again for Vegas? No, I would definitely go to a grandstand and just brunt the cold. My second tour that I did on Friday night was at a much better time. It was at 7:30, so it was right after free practice 3 before qualifying. I saw way more drivers. I saw Toto Wolff. I saw way more presenters. There was much more happening. That's more fun for me. I'm not even one of those people that wants to walk up and get a photo with drivers. That's just personally not something that I am into. But I saw a lot more. I had a blue man come and take my phone. Thank you. More of that will be all on Girly Pop Go, obviously, because I don't want to spend too much time on this because I want to talk more about different experiences within the race itself. But the 2 separate paddock tours, I do think was worth the cost of that. And was it worth the headache of the ticket? No, I was very upset. I was very annoyed. I really hated the announcers this race. Y'all were not great, especially during the race. It was not good. And I had the radio and I didn't use it. I should have used the radio because I believe it's the Sky Sports broadcast and that one would have been better, I do believe. The on-site commentary was not for me, but I also did not like them when they were in Miami. So I also didn't like them last year. Last year, I fully drowned them out with the radios, but it was easier to do with where I was last year in the grandstands. In the Champions Club, it's harder because there is better radio there. It's better surround sound there. Let's talk about some of the free stuff outside of the circuit. So the fan zone. Now, the fan zone is something that is typically within various Formula One tracks, various Formula One setups. This fan zone was actually outside of the track and was actually open to the public, and it was free. Now, you didn't need to have a race ticket, which was great. You just had to reserve your ticket in advance. But I do think this is good and bad because, again, it's open to the public. Anyone can go and walk up. You don't need to pay money for it. You don't need to pay for a ticket to the race. However, typically this is something that would just be included in your race day ticket. So it's something that is being removed from the race circuit by doing it this way. However, they did have fan zones in East Harmon and a couple of other spaces as well. That was good. So something to note, good and bad with this. Okay. In the zone as well was F1 Academy. I have a lot of thoughts about the rollouts of everything that they did. Pretty much all of my friends and I are also fans of F1 Academy, which, for those of you who don't know, is the all-women's support series for F1 to hopefully foster women and hopefully end up with one day getting a driver into a Formula One seat. Again, to get a woman in an F1 seat again. Sorry, I don't like how I framed this. This makes it sound like there's never been a woman in Formula One. F1 Academy is in its second year, but we were all very excited when we saw that F1 Academy was going to have a presence at the fan zone. However, we had no idea what that presence would be, and the way it was laid out, it was a huge section. I thought it was going to be a booth or something like that, maybe have a couple of drivers to talk to. We didn't find out until we went to an F1 Academy Female Quotient event, which was also open to the public at the Wynn. There was a lot of pop-ups around Vegas, obviously, from Susie Wolf, who's the head of F1 Academy. She said, like, oh yeah, they're doing show runs. And I was like, what? Where? When? How? I go over there Saturday, because that's when I had my ticket. And I go over to the F1 Academy booth, and it's just a giant space for F1 Academy with their branding on it. They have speakers. I found out later that those speakers were just for emergency announcements and had actually no way for them to hook up a microphone to it or anything like that for F1 Academy. And then they would have the Amex car driven by Jess Edgar, who does drive the Amex car in F1 Academy. It wasn't just, I have so many thoughts here, I'm sorry, but like they had Jess come out and do show runs because that's what they did. No announcement, no introduction as to who she was, no explanation as to why there's an Amex car in F1 Academy, no information about F1 Academy racing in Qatar alongside F1 this weekend. And then Jess would finish her show runs, would drive up, park the car, get out of the car, and walk up to the barrier to see if anyone wanted to talk to her. No announcement. F1 Academy people were there standing in the background, but nothing to come and be like, hey guys, Jess is gonna come up and talk to you guys. None of that. And I don't know, I just feel like there's little tweaks here that could have been made that would, one, make this less awkward for Jess, because I ended up talking with Jess quite a bit this day. I stayed for all of the show runs that I could. I stayed for 3, talked with her each time, got some footage with her, asked her some questions for Girly Pop Go. I feel like this could have been less painful for her. This could have been made less awkward for her. This could have been made better. At one point, I did take it upon myself to yell into the crowd, everyone, this is Jess Edgar. She races in the Amex car for F1 Academy. F1 Academy will be racing in Qatar this weekend. You can watch for free on YouTube. I did do that because no one else was doing it. Okay. Anyways, my friends and I that were there, we also ended up meeting up with a couple other people, and then we went to the Link because the Link was doing another free Amex thing with the High Roller, where if you just had an Amex card, you could get on the Link and do a free 30-minute ride with champagne and stuff, which was really great because we could see all of the fan zones on this side of the strip, so not down the strip, but this side of the strip. We could see all of those. This is the Flamingo Zone, which is very small. Like that's everything. Everybody's bodies are gonna be in it. And then that's my section over there. So like that's where I was last night. That's the paddock building. And then on the other side is the grandstand I'm in tonight. And then over here, that green zone is the Heineken zone at Koval, South Koval zone. That is a hospitality zone over there. It's really cool, but also it shows how small some of these sections are. And we were all like, oh, that's not good. So I definitely think look at your zone before you don't just buy a ticket because it's the cheapest option. Now, where we were, I did not experience this much at all. But my friends that were in the T-Mobile zone said that they ran out of water and sodas at a certain point, which were free. Elected to tell me because I went to the race with my dad when we were in the East Harmon zone. He, one point, because once I'm in my seat for the race, I'm in my seat for the race. If someone else is with me, with love, you're going to be the one going to get food. So my dad went to go get us food and drinks at one point, and he said that someone came out with a case of waters, ripped it open, and just shoved it into the crowd, and he just grabbed 2 of them. And that is how he got us water that second time. So I guess they ran out of water there as well. The soda cans changed as if they had gone into like a Costco and bought a ton. Those ran out at a certain point because it was different cans. Another creator over in, not the East Harmon zone, but the one next to it, they ran out of plates and forks at a certain point for the food. I don't know, we're just handing it to them on napkins. In the T-Mobile Sphere zone, there was literally no places to sit and eat. They just had these, the security poles, I believe they're called. They had little flat surfaces there to eat. That was kind of it. They were told, like, if you think you might want something, grab it. We will run out. If you think you want something during the race, grab it now. Never really had this issue of that we could see of running out of food, and most of the stuff that we got was pretty much always warm to some capacity, but the Sphere zone, a lot of people were getting cold stuff. This zone as well, I think people were also getting cold stuff. And then again, it's also cold. So like by the time you walk back to your seat, it's going to be cold, even if it wasn't cold to begin with. The running out of food and water and everything like that was crazy to me because it's like, that's literally included in your ticket. That should be something you adamantly don't run out of. I don't know if they, again, overcorrecting because they maybe made too much last year and that's not the case this year or what. Running out of food on race day when you know there's going to be more people, when you know that that's included in the ticket, that's something that I do think is unacceptable, okay? Because it's not like running out of food and then I have an option to go buy food from somewhere else. No, there was a lot of times where there just were not vegetarian options available, or there was 1 to 2 vegetarian options, or like there was pizza one day and one day it had cheese and one day it had meat on it. And it's like, that's a problem to only have 1 or maybe even in some instances 0 vegetarian options for anyone to eat. And again, someone's like, someone's going to be like, well, just bring your own food in. You can't. They don't allow that in these zones. If you're going to make it this way, this is your option, this is your option, this is what you have to do. You have to have the variety available. You have to have the quantity available necessary to feed the crowd that you sold tickets to, if that's going to be included in my ticket. If I want to have 8 of the smash burgers, I should be allowed to do that because that's included in my ticket. All right, we got 30 minutes till free practice 1. I've already found my food hyperfixation of this race. I always find one. In Japan, it was Dongo. In Miami, it was the pretzels. But s'mores brownie, free. I walked up, I was like, oh, I'll take one of those. He was like, take 3 of them. I only grabbed 1. I regret not grabbing 3. The opening ceremony, I think, was much more conducive this year and also didn't make it feel like we were about to sacrifice the drivers to the Hunger Games. They did put the drivers on the sphere from time to time, especially if they were kicked out of a session. There was one session where during qualifying, because the way qualifying works, Q1, Q2, Q3, Q1, 5 slowest drivers removed, 5 slowest drivers for Q2 out, and then setting the grid for the race itself, okay? We had some incredible things happening qualifying and some bad things happening qualifying, but Checo Perez, who drives for Red Bull, he was actually out in Q1. And when he was out on the sphere, they put a video of him, a giant video of him thumbs downing like himself. I would put the car in the wall. I would put the car in the sphere. I would change the trajectory of everyone's life in that moment. I'm dead. They're trying to do smoke machines, but I don't think it's working that well. Lewis Hamilton, who had been fast all weekend, it was really very much a bummer that he ended up qualifying P10 when he very easily could have gotten pole position, but George Russell, his teammate, got pole position. And then we had Pierre Gasly, who's driving for Alpine, who previously just got P3 in Brazil, got P3 here for the race to start with qualifying. So that was really cool and exciting. Race day was obviously way more people. That typically has been the case that I find with pretty much every race that I have been to. However, I do feel like across the board, there was still less people here than last year. And again, we have less grandstands here as well. Let's get ready to rumble, all of that. But instead of doing little classic cars like they did last year, they just did their standard like open back truck that they do where they do the interviews and all of that for the drivers. I also do think this is better because then they can do interviews and things like that. And also they did something that I thought was very nice where while they were doing their interviews at the end, they would say, is there anything you would like to say in French or in Spanish? This is in the driver's language. The one person they didn't do this for that I clocked was Yuki. Yuki is Japanese fans here. I know he does. Why didn't you ask Yuki to say something in Japanese? Just saying. But overall, I do think that's a nice touch. I think that's fun. Also, I should note, Franco Colapinto did crash his car during qualifying. There was a lot of issues with this track. Because it was cold, a lot of the cars actually closed up the vents to trap more heat in the car, which also helped with the aerodynamics, which is what made some of these cars just that much more faster here. And so this led to faster speeds, a lot of overshots, a lot of missed turns. This did not end up happening during the race, thankfully, but this led to a couple of people going off track and a couple of like temporary yellow flags and during the practice sessions and a little bit during qualifying. Franco Colapinto did crash into the wall very hard. I believe they said it was 60 Gs, which is very painful. And then Williams released a statement talking about how his health was the most important thing, and that if Franco is not cleared, he will not be in the car the next day and they will not race, basically. Turns out it was the opposite of that. Franco ended up racing with a concussion. There is a concussion protocol, and he himself said, I have a concussion, but I was told not to talk about it. They did not alert the people clearing him for medical to race. They did not tell him his symptoms in full. That would have shown that he had a concussion. He had been told he had had a concussion. There was nearly 100% chance that there was going to be a red flag at this race. There wasn't. There was not a safety car. I finally broke my streak because every race I have ever been to, aside from this one, has had a safety car come out. So broke my streak of that. But there was a high likelihood of something bad happening again. And the likelihood that Franco could have crashed or been caught up in another crash and caused further head trauma was very high. And for them to put him in danger like that when they made the statement about his health is the most important thing to us, how dare you, frankly? That was awful. We'll see if there's a penalty. I don't know if there will be. There was a lot of things that would have typically gotten a penalty this weekend that did not because we have a new race director. So we shall see what ends up happening going forward when they go into Qatar. I am glad Franco's okay. I hope he is okay going forward, and I'm mad at Williams still. Anyways, during the race, Pierre was doing good, and then he was not. He said, I have no power. His engineer said, that's not what it says on our end. He's freaking out. I am telling you I have no power. He is then able to make it back to the pits, surprisingly, and it turns out that this car just literally ripped a hole in itself and it lost all power. There is a whole hole on the side of the car now. This was not clear during the race. It was clear that he had a power unit issue, but wasn't quite sure what. These announcers were not good. At the start of the race, I missed the race start. I was right before turn 1, and I missed the race start because they were like, okay, we're about to get started. And then I hear the engines of the cars going past me. That's how I knew the race started. Not and we're off, and lights out, and we're underway now. None of that. I did not like these announcers whatsoever. They were much better this time around where they weren't like under the lights of the Las Vegas Strip on a repeat, okay? But overall, there was a lot in this race that I missed, and there was a lot of radios that I could not hear just overall because of the speakers of where we were. Lots of screens in this area down the main straight for the start-finish line and everything. Amazing, fantastic. I appreciate that. But just overall, something that was annoying, okay, was the announcers this time around. No one went off at turn 1. Turn 1 did have a little bit of a spin out situation where I believe it was Zhou Guanyu and Fernando Alonso last year where they spun out, and I kept saying they touched tips, but that's basically what they did. They didn't crash. They just kind of went boop, like just a little bit. I don't even think they made contact. They were about to, but that didn't happen this year. They made it through turn 1, kept going. Good. No one crashed. No one made it into the wall. There was a bit of contact between, I believe, Kevin Magnussen and Fernando Alonso. At one point, he did have a slight puncture, so he did hit like lap 2 or 3. But aside from that, there was not really a ton of contact. There was a lot of great overtakes. Lewis Hamilton went from P10 to P2 like twice, basically, because then there was another time where they pitted him and he was back down to P7 and he crawled his way back up. We got a Mercedes 1-2 overall in the race. Something that was also interesting as well is there was a lot of data that was just wrong on the boards. Like at one point they had the gap between George and Lewis as 20 seconds and then it got corrected. Again, I don't know how much of this is attributed to the new race director, but little things like that seem to happen a few times. Lewis was gaining on George. Like there was one point where my dad even said, he was like, whoa, that was a 9-second gap. Now it says 6 seconds. I was like, yeah, he's gaining on him. So I do think with a couple more laps, I do think Lewis would have overtaken George, honestly. There was a Ferrari of it all where there was quite a few battles happening with the Ferraris. We are getting to the end of the season, and so we are getting to the end of Carlos Sainz's time with Ferrari, and that is becoming very apparent in some of these calls and behavior from Carlos and the way the team is reacting. And so at one point we have a radio message that I did not hear there, but it was definitely one that we all discussed after the race quite a bit. They said, we told him not to fight you or not to overtake you. And Charles said, try it again in Spanish. And then after the race, because Carlos did get P3, Charles got P4. Charles wailed on the radio. He let it go. He wanted it said publicly. I have been talking about it quite a bit where I really wanted Charles villain era. I thought we were getting it at the start of this year and then we really didn't. I'm really hoping we get it next year. We'll see. But he's a whole new teammate next year with Lewis Hamilton, so we're going to see how that all plays out. I'm really excited for next season, honestly. Overall, I think there's going to be a lot of good happening and a lot of shakeups happening. I'm excited. We have a ton of rookies on the year next year. Oh wait, I'm sorry. I totally skipped over. Do you know what else happened this race? My guy Lando, I don't know what McLaren was doing this weekend. I don't know if their car is that conducive to the cold or whatever, but yeah, Lando got lost the chance to be World Drivers Champion in 2024. Max Verstappen is once again World Drivers Championship for 2024. The logo is sick. It's his name. It just says Max, but the A is a 4 in gold. It looks so sick. So Max is the 4-time world champion. The team clearly knew Max was going to win. They had a special helmet for him. They had merch. They had shirts. They had a bunch of stuff ready to go already, obviously, because there was a high likelihood he was going to win here. There was a chance that Lando could still stay in contention, but it was not likely. And then how the race all played out, there was no possibility of it happening, really. I feel like Vegas should have been more prepared for it. They should have done more. There should have been a firework thing. There should have been something. There should have been more. That didn't end up happening. It's fine. It's just like, yeah, you're world champion now. Go Max, okay?
Hi again. I didn't even realize I was wearing my Red Bull sweatshirt until just now, but I should note there were fireworks after the race, but there were fireworks last year as well. I do not think these were specifically like world championship winner fireworks. I think it's just, we're in Vegas. F1 fireworks.
Him and Lando had a good interaction. Max apparently told Lando, be patient, like your time will come. Be patient, your time will come when I'm not here anymore. But like, I think that part was implied. But I'm excited now because Charles, the gap between Charles and Lando is about 21 points, I believe. So very much we could get Charles in P2 for the World Drivers' Championship. We could get a Ferrari P2. Ferrari and McLaren are battling for the Constructors' Championship. Do we have a sprint for Abu Dhabi? I can't remember. I think it's just the sprint for Qatar. I'm glad I was able to be there. Getting out of the circuit much easier this year. I will say getting home, hiking around, a nightmare. Something that was discussed last year was that they talked about blocking out the views for restaurants and businesses. That was not something that I could see that was proposed this year. That was something that was discussed last year. They didn't end up doing it, and they didn't end up doing it this year. From what I can tell, no hotels, no restaurants that were on the strip that had a view of the circuit had their views blocked. Every time I go to Vegas and I talk about F1 or whatever, taxi drivers, Lyft drivers, employees, restaurant people, whatever, okay? They all tell me how much they hate it. And so I don't know what's going to happen next year. It is not going to be something where Vegas is going to be pulling out. F1 is not going to pull out. My hope this year was that they were going to try and deal with some of the pain points of the locals, and it doesn't seem like they have done that. So again, my hope for that is next year.
I got a lot of tags and a lot of angry messages demanding that I talk about the escalator situation on the strip. One, I am one person, okay? Even when I review something like this, I try and experience as much as I possibly can, but I can't experience everything. Two, the experience this year for the escalators on the strip, escalators and the bridges that I'm talking about are the ones that you just saw where it's the metal sheeting covered. I talked about that last year. They used plastic sheeting last year, blackout sheeting that people cut, which is why they opted for the metal sheeting this year. Also did something very different this year where this was actually preferred. You could go up the escalator and down the escalator and watch the race for free, because they didn't block the view from the escalators or the stairs on the strip, at least in front of the Cromwell for the bridge that led to Caesar's Palace and Hell's Kitchen. I was going to talk about that regardless because it's something I talked about last year, but believe it or not, this year is preferred to last year. That is actual progress. They were always going to block it because it's a bridge that goes over the track, that they don't want you jumping onto the track. They don't want you throwing things onto the track. It's not about just free viewing. It's about safety.
I have a lot more thoughts. I have a lot more things to say. A lot of those are going to be on Girly Pop Go about various different events, tours, things like that. But all in all, I had a good time. This was a great race. I always have a good time at these races, but also as someone who is, focused on the attendee experience, there's things that I can't ignore. Running out of food is unacceptable when you are my only option for food at a race that I got to at 4:30 that ends closer to midnight. That is unacceptable. Running out of water, running out of non-alcoholic options. All right, that's going to be it. Did you go to F1 Las Vegas? Have you ever been to F1 Las Vegas? Are you annoyed that F1 Las Vegas is a thing? Are you a Las Vegas local that is mad at F1? Let me know. Comment down below. Reminder, I stream on Twitch. Reminder that Swell Entertainment is now available on Spotify. Reminder, use code SWELL for 10% off on gamer subs. Shout out to my channel members. If you'd also like to join a channel memberships, you can go ahead and click the join button down below. Like some of my social media. That'll be up here, and that's going to be the hell of the day. Goodbye. The running out of food element is just ridiculous to me because it's like, again, you don't give me the option to get food from somewhere else, So you have to be prepared to have food for everyone in every zone all the time.